If you're amazing at starting things but terrible at finishing them, you need to keep watching. This happens not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain is working exactly how it was designed to, just not in your favor. So in this video, I want to explain why we fall in love with new ideas, new habits, new projects, and then abandon them halfway through. And most importantly, I'll show you the difference between something you should push through and finish and something you're allowed to let go of. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Veronika, and on this channel I make videos about self-improvement, sustainable habits, and creating a life you love. If you like to use Notion just like me, I think you would get a lot of value out of my life design Notion database. It includes 4 main trackers: a habit tracker, a goal tracker, a reading tracker, and your weekly task planner. This product is truly an all-in-one system to bring structure, clarity, and calm into your days without the pressure of adding more. If you want to check it out, I'll leave the link in a description. Alright, so let's begin and talk about why you love starting new things but hate finishing them. And the first reason is the shiny object syndrome. This is the moment when your brain is so excited about starting something new. This new idea or a new habit feels magical and full of potential. You feel like this one thing is going to change everything, but as soon as it stops feeling new, your motivation drops and your attention moves to the next shiny thing. It is natural to experience the shiny object syndrome. We all do. It's biology, and plus our lives right now are absolutely filled with quick dopamine that doesn't help us here at all. Your brain loves novelty and quick dopamine, and that is why it feels so amazing and exciting and magical when you decide to start a new habit or a new hobby. But going through the process of something and finishing it requires patience, repetition, and sitting with boredom. And this last skill is exactly something that most of us are losing right now. We don't know how to feel bored anymore, because if I feel at least a little bit bored right now, I can just grab my phone and immediately I feel a ton of other emotions. So you quit things not because you can't do them, but because your brain loves the feeling of a new beginning and hates the work of continuing. I went through this whole phase when I wanted to learn how to play the ukulele. The problem is I only did that for about a week and then I stopped practicing. And yes, this is where I experienced the shiny object syndrome, because the thought of playing the ukulele was more attractive to me than actually going and learning and sitting through discomfort. So right now, what I like to do, to be really honest with myself, is I like to ask myself this question: if I never achieve this goal, does the process still sound exciting? And in a lot of cases, your answer is going to be no, and that's okay. It's okay to drop hobbies and projects and habits to free up time and space to do something that's actually important. I think right now we're so attached to end results, but I really want us to find happiness and enjoyment in the process. We don't have to master absolutely all the skills. It's so much better to be laser focused on a few things that you actually like. Because every single project has 3 phases: an exciting beginning, a boring middle, and a rewarding end. And most people quit in the boring middle because they didn't expect it. Or maybe they did, but honestly right now they just don't want to deal with it anymore, and it's okay. So it's nice to ask yourself, am I ready to sit through the boring middle? One thing I've noticed about myself, and maybe you can relate, is that I usually quit projects because my brain gets overstimulated. And that is why right now for me, one of the biggest non-negotiables is letting my brain actually recharge. And that always starts with sleep. This is why I'm so excited to partner up with Soundcore on today's video and tell you guys about their Sleep A30 Special earbuds. If you're a sensitive sleeper just like me, you're going to love their triple noise reduction system. It's designed to improve your sleep quality by blocking low-frequency sounds. I can never fall asleep with the AC humming, but these earbuds block out that noise perfectly with their sleep-engineered ANC and soothing audio from the app. Also, the charging case can detect snoring, and the earbuds then start playing personalized masking sounds, helping you stay asleep and feel rested when you wake up in the morning. I often have lots of thoughts in my head right before sleep. And I really like how with these earbuds inside the Soundcore app, I can listen to selected sleep stories and sleep meditations from Calm, plus over 50 white noise and nature tracks to help you reduce stress. Last night I listened to the story called A Rainy Day in Paris, and it helped me fall asleep so much faster. My absolute favorite thing about these earbuds is that they're extremely comfortable to sleep in. I'm a side sleeper, and if I decide to wear regular earplugs to bed, I can feel them. And with these earbuds, I don't feel them at all when I'm on my side. They're made for sleeping, so they sit super snug and don't stick out. And you get different ear tips and wings, so you can actually customize the fit and make them feel as comfy as possible. So if you want your nights to feel more peaceful, I'll leave the links to get your pair of Soundcore Sleep A30 Special in the description. And thank you so much to Soundcore for sponsoring today's video. Alright, so the next major reason why we don't finish what we start is the sunk cost fallacy. This happens when you keep doing something not because it still makes sense, but because you've already invested time and energy and money into it. Your brain goes, I've already put so much into this, I can't quit now. Even if quitting would actually be the healthiest and smartest decision. You know how sometimes we have this voice in our heads that says, I've come too far to stop now. And this voice isn't always right. And yes, I understand that the sunk cost fallacy is actually telling us that sometimes it's healthy to quit things. And that is why I really wanted to talk about this in today's video, even though I'm also kind of talking about how not to quit. A lot of us grew up hearing things like, finish what you start, don't quit. So quitting gets labeled as failure, even when it's actually clarity. And this shows up everywhere. We can especially see it with college degrees and careers. People stay in paths they no longer recognize as theirs. Not because they love them, but because quitting feels like they wasted years of their life. And so now I want to talk about what helps me work with the sunk cost fallacy, because I've experienced these similar situations so many times in the past. I've shared this before. I actually went to college to become a Chinese interpreter. That was my major, the Chinese language, and my work is not really connected to this anymore. I spent 5 years in college learning Chinese. I invested so much time, effort, and money into all of that. And for a long time, I felt so much shame admitting that I didn't want to do that anymore. That I didn't actually want that to become my career. And I kept thinking, how can I drop something I spent 5 years of my life on? It felt like all that effort was a waste. But that is exactly how the sunk cost fallacy works. It tells you that your past effort obligates your future. But the truth is, for me, those 5 years didn't disappear. They shaped how I learn languages, how I think, how I study. And currently, I'm allowed to choose what matters from now on. The problem is that past effort is not a reason to keep going. And sometimes quitting isn't really about chasing quick dopamine or a shiny object. Sometimes it's saying, this no longer matches my values and I'm allowed to choose again. The real skill is actually knowing the difference between boredom, something you need to work with, something you can push through to get to this rewarding end, and misalignment, which means that it's time to walk away. Okay, so the next reason why we don't finish what we start is because of fear of failure and fear of success. I think we're all very familiar with the fear of failure. I don't want to do it because I want to do it perfectly, and I know deep down that I can't really do it perfectly because perfection is abstract. You know, one person is going to say, this is perfect, another person is going to look at it and be like, no, it's not perfect enough. I think if I make a mistake, if something goes wrong, then I'm going to think of myself as a failure. And this fear of failure is really connected to the illusion that we often experience called the illusion of perfect timing, of perfect conditions, that okay, it's not the perfect time yet, it's not the perfect conditions yet, I'm just gonna wait a little bit more, and then in a week, in a month, in a year, the timing is finally gonna be perfect. And to to be honest, I think in a lot of cases, social media makes it worse. Because when we want to start a new hobby, let's say painting, social media tells us that it's not enough to just have a piece of paper, a brush, and some paints. Our painting kit has to be elaborate and super expensive. We have to go all in from the very beginning, otherwise we're not gonna paint that well. And so this perfectionist in ourselves tells us that if the result can't be 100% ideal, we feel like we're at a zero. It's failure. But something that I try to remind myself of, and I'm gonna share it with you guys, is that if you wait for the perfect timing, for the perfect conditions, you will never start. And if you keep changing things every time life gets messy, you will never finish. And now let's talk about the fear of success, because yes, it's legit. Maybe to some of you it might sound crazy, like is a person afraid of being successful? But the thing is, in many cases, success can bring change, higher expectations, visibility, or pressure to replicate that success. Let's say for me, for example, I actually have another YouTube channel that has over 1 million followers where I used to make videos about language learning. And so now with this current YouTube channel, it's very possible that I might feel this pressure to replicate the same results and also to replicate the same results very quickly. And because of that, I might procrastinate and never even make these videos. Both of these fears, the fear of failure and the fear of success, manifest in procrastination and quitting. And oftentimes when we experience these fears, we feel like we can procrastinate for a long time, we can delay finishing something so that later we can blame lack of time and not really ourselves, because obviously we don't want to blame ourselves. We can just say, oh, okay, now I don't have enough time. And when I find myself stuck in those crazy loops, it's really nice to just go to the very beginning and examine if I have the fear of failure, if I have the fear of success, and how I can help myself here before I start procrastinating and just quit something that is actually very important to me. Alright, so the final thing I want you guys to understand about starting things and finishing things is the switching tax. This is the hidden cost you pay every time you jump from one thing to another. It's the energy, focus, and time your brain needs to let go of one context and fully enter another one, because your brain can't truly multitask. We might feel like, okay, I'm very good at multitasking, I can do this while doing that, but in reality, most of the time, your brain is just trying to focus on one thing, and then you're switching your focus to do the next thing, and then you're switching your focus back to the first thing. You're not really giving 100% of your attention to all of these different things you're trying to do at the same time. What your brain actually does is rapidly switch, and every switch comes with a fee, and that fee is your fragmented attention. The thing about the switch and tax is that it's often invisible. You don't notice it immediately, obviously, but by the end of the day, you feel super tired, like mentally exhausted, and you feel like nothing really moved forward. It's not because you didn't do enough, but because your brain spent all day switching instead of building depth. Now, I want to add, it doesn't mean that switching is always bad. Sometimes you need to switch to avoid the sunk cost fallacy. Or I would even say not switch, but quit something altogether, not to be stuck in the sunk cost fallacy. The key here is intentional switching or intentional quitting, not impulsive switching. Instead of constantly asking, can I start this? Can I start this too? Ask, what am I willing to pause or drop so that my attention isn't split? Because progress doesn't come from doing a bunch of things at the same time lightly. It comes from doing fewer things, but doing them deeply. Every switch has a price, so make sure it's worth paying. Every half-finished thing can leave a huge dent in your confidence, but every completed one builds proof that you can. And feeling like you can is really good for your identity, because that identity will help you drive your action even further. And that action, in turn, will solidify your identity. So the next time you feel tempted to abandon something that really matters, try to remember this. Your brain loves to start, but your future and your identity depend on what you finish. Alright everyone, I think it's going to be it for today's video. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments. Just a reminder, don't forget to check out Soundcore Sleep A30 Special. The links are going to be in my description. Now that you know why we love starting new things but hate finishing them, the next step is understanding why so many of us abandon our goals so quickly. You feel so inspired and motivated the first few weeks only to quit on yourself at the end of the month. To learn why this happens, click here. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you can, and I'll see you in my next video.